It echoed in Michael Reeves' head like a courtroom gavel slamming down on the broken remnants of his life. A life he had spent building from scratch. A modest house in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon, a design consultancy firm that started in the spare bedroom, and a marriage that had once felt like the one good decision he'd ever made. Until it wasn't. Now sitting alone in the living room of what used to be their home, he watched the lawyer's envelope on the coffee table as if it might grow teeth and bite. Equitable distribution, they called it. Clean, clinical. Like, you could split 15 years of memories down the middle and walk away with half of the hurt. The couch still smelled faintly like her perfume. Jasmine and citrus, the same blend Anna wore when they first met at a tech conference in Seattle. She had leaned in close to admire one of his mock-ups. "I love minimalism," she had whispered, and smiled like she already knew he'd fall for her. And he had. Hard. They married a year later. Anna gave up her marketing job to help him grow his business. At first it worked. They made sacrifices, shared one car, lived lean, rarely. Vacationed. Michael worked 12-hour days. Anna built their online presence, brought in clients, and managed payroll. They made a good team. Or so he thought. It started small. Silent dinners, cold shoulders, her long absences disguised as networking events. Michael didn't want to believe the shift. He told himself she was tired, that they'd get through the phase. But the silence became an avalanche, burying everything they'd built under it. The final blow came wrapped in silk. Anna returned home from a weekend retreat with a diamond tennis bracelet around her wrist. It wasn't from him. Michael didn't confront her that night. He just watched her move through the house like a stranger. The next morning she said they needed to talk. He already knew. "I want a divorce," she said, not crying, not even looking at him. "I've been unhappy for a long time." He listened in stunned silence. Then came the papers, the lawyer, the demand. Half of the business, half of the house, half of everything. "I supported you," she said. "This is mine, too." Now, days later, Michael sat in the quiet, trying to untangle grief from anger. He didn't care about the house or the firm or the money. It was the betrayal. A knock broke the silence. He opened the door to find his younger brother, Adam, holding a six-pack of beer and an expression of awkward sympathy. "Thought you might need company." They sat in silence, drinking in small gulps. Eventually, Adam asked the one question Michael had been avoiding. "You think she ever really loved you?" Michael didn't answer. He just stared at the envelope again. The Pacific Northwest in October is a moody landscape. Skies that can't decide if they want to rain or brood. Portland's golden leaves swirled like regrets in the wind. Michael walked through Laurelhurst Park, hoodie pulled over his head. The leash of his golden retriever, Toby, loosely in hand. Toby was the only constant that hadn't changed sides. The park was their old Saturday ritual. Toby running ahead, Anna sipping overpriced coffee, and Michael ranting about clients who didn't understand creative vision. He used to love how she laughed at his dramatics, how she'd mock their accents and say, "You should charge double for putting up with that." Now that memory felt like it belonged to someone else. His phone buzzed, a message from Elise, their former office assistant, who'd stayed on with Anna after she opened her own branding agency last month. "Heard about the split. I'm sorry, she shouldn't have done you like that. She shouldn't have done you like that." The words rattled something inside him. Later that afternoon, he visited his accountant, Miranda, an old friend who'd once told him to trademark his logo before his own wife tried to walk away with it. He'd laughed at the time. He wasn't laughing now. Miranda looked over the documents, raising an eyebrow. "She wants equity and 50% of the house after taking all the clients you helped build?" Michael nodded, tight-lipped. "She's got some nerve." "Yeah," he said. "She's good at taking things." Miranda leaned forward. "What are you going to do, Mike? Let her walk away with half your soul?" He didn't know yet. That night, he found himself scrolling through photos on his phone. Images from Cabo, Christmas in Vermont, her laughing in the snow. And in between the cracks, her distant expression, the way her body leaned subtly away from him, even in photos. He deleted the whole album, not out of rage, out of necessity, because somewhere deep down, he realized something worse than betrayal. Anna had started checking out long before she walked away, and he'd been too in love to see it. The mediation room was beige, the kind of beige that felt like it had given up. The long table was scratched and scarred, much like Michael felt. Across from him sat Anna, radiant in her dark blue blazer, her posture composed, her expression unreadable. Beside her, a shark in a grey suit, her lawyer. Michael's attorney, Kelly, nudged a folder toward him. "Stick to what we discussed," she whispered. "Don't respond emotionally, they're looking for that." Michael gave a sharp nod, but the rage sat coiled in his gut like a spring. It wasn't just about assets anymore. It was about being gutted publicly, turned into a villain in a story where he had been nothing but loyal. Anna glanced at him briefly, then turned to her lawyer. "We're requesting 50% of the business value and shared custody of Toby." Michael nearly laughed. "Toby?" he blurted. "He's part of the household," Anna replied calmly. "And I've bonded with him." Michael stared at her, stunned. She never walked him, never fed him. When she was still home, she complained about the dog hair on the couch. Now she wanted custody? Kelly placed a hand on his arm, grounding him. "We'll negotiate terms." But Michael wasn't listening. His focus was on Anna, not the woman he married, but the version sitting across the table, detached and calculating. After the session, Kelly caught up with him in the hallway. "She's going for the jugular," she said bluntly. "She's treating this like a business acquisition, not a breakup." "It was always business to her," Michael muttered. "I just didn't see it." That night, he poured himself a double bourbon and walked to the backyard, letting the cold air bite his skin. The maple trees were almost bare. The swing set he built for their niece when she visited still stood. Anna once said she wanted kids. That conversation had ended after a miscarriage they never talked about again. He remembered her sitting on the bathroom floor, legs curled in, whispering, "I don't want to go through this again." And he'd nodded, because what else could he say? Maybe that was when things started to crumble. The next morning, Michael arrived at his office to find 2 clients had pulled out, redirected to Anna's agency. One was a contract he'd been working on for 6 months. Elise texted again. "She's using the contact list. I think she exported your CRM before she left." Michael's hands trembled. That was theft. That wasn't emotional fallout. That was sabotage. "Make her pay," Adam said later that night when Michael vented. But Michael didn't want revenge. He just wanted clarity. Wanted to know what had happened to the woman who once danced barefoot in the kitchen, singing the E. Rolling Stones off key. A week later, Michael sat in his therapist's office, a referral from Kelly. "You need to process this, not just fight it," she'd said. Dr. Yvonne Lane was in her late 50s, wore statement earrings, and had a voice like someone who'd seen every version of heartbreak. She didn't ask about the legal battle. Instead, she asked about the silence before it. How long had you both stopped touching each other emotionally before you stopped physically? Michael blinked. Years, maybe. But I kept thinking it would get better. Why? Because I loved her. Yvonne looked at him, steady. Did she love you? I think so. Once. He paused. Or maybe she just loved the idea of being with someone who made her feel useful. That truth hit harder than any courtroom exchange. At the same time, Adam's subplot was unfolding in parallel. Michael's younger brother had always been the charming one, a bartender turned event coordinator who never stayed in one place too long. Recently, though, he'd grown more serious, started talking about commitment, maybe even kids. But something was off. Michael noticed him checking his phone constantly, his smile forced. One night, after 3 beers, Adam finally confessed. She cheated on me, man. Olivia just packed her stuff and left. Michael sat back. I didn't. No. I didn't want to dump my problems on you with everything you're going through. Michael shook his head. We're both getting demolished by women we thought were forever. Adam laughed bitterly. Must be genetic. It wasn't. Funny, but it made them feel less alone. Meanwhile, Miranda, the accountant, came through with a damning discovery. Anna had opened a new business account months before she filed for divorce. She'd been planning her exit long before she said the words. Her lawyer didn't disclose any of this, Miranda said, handing over the documents. Kelly's eyes lit up when she saw the file. This changes everything. It proves intent to deceive. She might lose the business claim entirely. It should have felt like a win, but Michael didn't feel victorious. He felt hollow. Anna had once said, "I never want to hurt you." But now it was clear. The hurt wasn't a side effect. It was part of the plan. The rain came down in sheets that November evening, beating the windshield like war drums. Michael gripped the steering wheel harder than necessary as he pulled into the driveway of the house, their house, for what might be the last time. The court had granted temporary access so Anna could collect the rest of her belongings. Kelly advised against being there while she moved out. Michael ignored that advice. Inside, the lights were already on. Anna stood in the foyer, her back to him. She wore a long beige coat and heeled boots, far too elegant for the box packing ordeal ahead. Several cardboard containers sat stacked by the staircase, labeled in her familiar cursive, "Bedroom Anna, kitchen, wine glasses, office, personal." He cleared his throat. "Need help?" She turned, startled. "Michael, I didn't think you'd be here. I live here, at least until you finish taking half." A flicker of something crossed her face, not guilt, not shame, but exhaustion. "I'm not here to fight. Neither am I. Just wanted to say goodbye to the wine glasses." A long silence, then she said, "You don't have to do this." "You already did this." Anna moved past him, picking up a photo from the entryway table. The two of them in Maine on a cliff, wind in her hair, his arm wrapped around her like she was the only thing keeping him grounded. "You were always trying to save things," she said quietly, "even when they were already gone." "Yeah," he replied. "That's what love does." She looked at him then, really looked. For a second, the steel in her eyes gave way to something softer. "You stopped seeing me." Michael blinked. "I saw everything, Anna, even the man who gave you that bracelet." Her lips parted, but no denial came. The silence stretched. "Why him?" he asked, voice hoarse. "I needed someone who made me feel alive again, someone who saw me." Michael didn't speak, his jaw clenched and he swallowed hard. She had loved someone else while still in his bed, still eating the meals he cooked, still smiling for pictures. But it wasn't the cheating that broke him. It was how easily she had justified it. He stepped closer, his voice low. "You could have told me. We could have ended it clean. I didn't want to hurt you." "Well, congratulations." She blinked fast. "I never meant for it to get this far." But it did. She took her final box and moved toward the door. "I'll have my lawyer send the list," she said. "Yeah," he said. "Let her take everything, that's what she's good at." The door closed behind her with a soft click, and the silence that followed felt permanent. It was in that moment, standing in the house they once built with love, that Michael realized something terrifying. He had no idea who Anna truly was. And maybe he never had. Michael didn't get out of bed the next morning. Or the morning after. The house felt haunted, not with ghosts but with echoes. Every object he touched had once belonged to both of them. The mugs, the couch. Even Toby refused to sleep in her old spot on the bed. On the third day, Adam let himself in with the spare key. "You smell like whiskey and regret." Michael buried his face in the pillow. Adam yanked the covers off. "Get up now, you're not dying here." Michael sat up slowly. His face was hollow, stubble thick, eyes bloodshot. "She took everything." "Not everything," Adam said. "You still have your name, your hands, your mind. And me, unfortunately." Michael laughed, the first real laugh in weeks. It cracked like a dry branch, but held. Later that week, Kelly called with news. Anna's lawyer, cornered by the evidence of the hidden business account, was now pushing for a settlement. They were offering to back off the business claim entirely, in exchange for the house and a smaller portion of the retirement account. "She's scared," Kelly said. "You've got leverage now." Michael stared at the papers spread across his desk. Contracts, valuations, emails, all the building blocks of a war he never asked to fight. "She can keep the house," he said. "Michael, She already poisoned it. I don't want to live in a graveyard. Okay, Kelly said carefully. Then we fight for everything else. But Michael no longer cared about punishment. He wanted peace. He went to Laurelhurst again, this time with no leash. Toby ran, freely through the fallen leaves. The air was colder now, sharper, and it bit at Michael's exposed skin like a reminder. You're still alive, bleeding, but alive. He watched a young couple pass by, laughing, her head on his shoulder, his hand on her lower back. They looked like he and Anna once did. He didn't envy them. He just hoped they never ended up like him. Back at the office, Michael began rebuilding. A new logo, a new slogan. Design from the ashes. It was bold, maybe a little dramatic, but it was honest. Elise, who had quit Anna's agency, rejoined him. Your ex is crashing, she said one day. Clients say she's burning out. Bad management, poor follow-through. Michael didn't respond. He didn't smile. He just kept working. At night he walked through his new apartment. Smaller, quieter, but it was his. Every inch, every plate, every song playing from his playlist. He made his own coffee. He slept without ghosts. And slowly the silence became bearable. January arrived like a bruise across Portland's sky, grey, swollen with cold, but somehow quieter. It had been 3 months since Anna walked out of the house, and 2 since Michael signed the final agreement. She got the house, he got the business. Toby stayed with him. And still, every now and then, a memory would sneak in like smoke through the cracks. Her laughter in the kitchen, her fingers brushing flour from his cheek during pancake Sundays, the way she used to hum off-key when folding laundry. Domestic. Things, married things, but the sting of loss was changing now, not disappearing and just transforming. It had stopped being raw. Now it was part of him, like an old scar you forget about until you stretch the skin just right. Michael started, running again, through rain, through frost, through pain. With each mile he shed the layers of who he'd been, not to become someone new, but to find the version of himself that had been buried under years of compromise. One night he stood in front of the mirror and didn't see a victim. He saw a man who had been burned and still walked away standing. At work, things began to shift. Elise led a brilliant pitch that landed their biggest client yet, a wellness startup with a bold aesthetic. Their first campaign read, "Begin again, but wiser." Michael approved it instantly. In therapy, Yvonne noted his tone had changed. "You're not talking about her as much anymore," she said. "I think I'm finally talking about me," Michael replied. Even Adam, slowly healing from his own betrayal, said, "You've got this quiet fire in you now, like you're done, apologizing for who you are." And he was, but then unexpectedly Anna called. The number blinked on his screen like a ghost refusing to stay buried. He let it ring. Then curiosity won. "Hello?" Silence. Then, "Hi." Her voice was smaller. The confident edge was gone. "I know I shouldn't call," she said, "but I saw the campaign, us in your new office. It's beautiful." "Thank you." Another pause. "I'm struggling." Michael waited. No anger, just space. I thought I knew what I wanted. But the clients aren't staying. The team doesn't trust me, and I miss—" Her voice cracked. "I miss how we used to be, when things made sense." Michael closed his eyes. There it was. The echo of the woman he once adored, the honesty, the regret. It struck something deep in him. But it didn't pull him anymore. "I know this sounds crazy," she whispered, "but could we talk, maybe have coffee sometime?" Michael opened his mouth, then closed it again. He thought of all they had been, all they had lost. Not just to betrayal, but to silence, resentment, and time. And finally he said, "Anna, I hope you find what you're looking for, but I'm not it anymore." Silence. Then a quiet, heartbroken, "Okay." He ended the call gently, not angrily, not bitterly, just finally. 2 weeks later, Michael stood in court one last time, this time not for confrontation, but for closure, final signatures, final property transfers. It was all formal now. Anna was there, sitting in the far corner, dressed in grey slacks and a black turtleneck. She looked older, tired. Her eyes didn't meet his. The judge read the terms. Anna kept the house, no spousal support from either party. Shared custody of Toby was dropped, per her own request. When it ended, they stood outside the courthouse under the brittle sunlight. She approached him, clutching her coat tight. "I'm not asking for another chance," she said. "I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. For real." Michael studied her. She meant it. But it wasn't enough. "I believe you," he said, "and I forgive you." Her eyes filled. "That's more than I deserve." "Maybe," he said. "But I needed it more than you did." She hesitated. "I hope someday we can talk again. As friends." Michael nodded faintly. "Maybe someday, but not now." He walked away without looking back. Because sometimes love doesn't end in betrayal. Sometimes it ends in understanding. That people change, wounds don't always heal together, and peace doesn't require permission. Anna watched him disappear into the crowd, alone but upright, and that was her punishment. Not court rulings, not lost clients, but watching the man she once had, the man she could have kept, walk away lighter without her. It's funny how peace doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes quietly, like sunlight through a cracked window, like a breath you didn't know you were holding. Months later, Michael sat on the porch of a modest lakeside cabin, Toby curled at his feet, the scent of pine and fresh coffee hanging in the air. No more courtrooms, no more unsigned goodbyes. Just the sound of water, the rustling of trees, and the kind of silence that no longer hurt. He wasn't the same man who fell in love, but he was finally someone he could live with. Stories like Michael's remind us that healing isn't always about closure. Sometimes it's about letting go without the answers you thought you needed. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to start over. And this story is a work of fiction. All characters, names, and situations are entirely made up and are not based on real individuals. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Take care.